So, because of your major, you've been viewing a lot of museums recently.
hmm
What some of the work that you've been seeing? What have you been interested in?
Well, I am in the process of writing my master's thesis, which is
Yes.
exciting,
A lot of
horrifying,
work.
completely overwhelming, but a cool experience. So, obviously, visiting museums right now is kind of hard and definitely not as easy as it once was. Um, So I kind of had to rework a lot of my research visits to places that I could, go. For example, the largest collection of Russian art in the United States is actually in Minneapolis. Not really sure why I ended up there, but you know,
Interesting.
I wouldn't have thought twice about hopping on a plane and going to Minneapolis prior to COVID, and now that's not very accessible. So
Right.
Um, well, I probably should mention that my thesis, I'm not going to go into the whole thing. I'll spare you the details, but it does have to do with collections of Russian art in North America and Europe.
Okay.
So there is actually the Museum of Russian Icons in Clinton, Massachusetts, which is a solid like 3.5 hour drive from where I'm living.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's nice. It's right near the city of Worcester in Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. So you're almost to Boston at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I think I was like 50 miles outside of Boston or something. I stayed in Worcester.
Right.
The museum was in Clinton, just which I think is just like a little north of Worcester. I don't exactly know the geography of it. Anyway, so I went to the Museum of Russian Icons, which was really interesting. I wasn't necessarily thinking that the collections I would look at would be religiously oriented, but kind of the more I look at Russian art, the more I'm like, there's you kind of can't really get the full scope of Russian art without looking at religious artwork because iconography was such a huge and still is a very prevalent art form in
Hmm.
Russia. So I've definitely been viewing a lot of iconography, which is absolutely beautiful. But the exhibit I was the most struck by while I was there was actually not iconography. It was, I really hope I'm going to say this right. Politics? No, no, I just said it totally wrong. Um, I'm going to send it to you in the chat. And since you're an artist, maybe you'll know
Oh boy.
how to say it.
Yeah, and fun fact, everyone, I'm also dyslexic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, politics,
Polyptych? I don't know. I've never
maybe.
heard of this word before. But basically, like these huge panels. Um,
Oh yeah. So okay. So this is what the word was reminding me of was like diptychs and triptychs, which
yes,
are
yes.
paneled artwork. So poly being five, so five paneled pieces maybe,
Yeah,
or multiple paneled
that
pieces,
would
something
make
along those
complete
lines.
sense. I don't
Yeah.
know about like the mechanics of art. So, anyway, yeah. So I think you
Always learning, always learning.
exactly. So I think you've got the gist of it. So, they were done by an artist named Anne Bovroff Hajal. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I believe she's based out of Westchester in New York.
Mhm.
And it did say, I believe, at the exhibition, she does have a PhD in Russian history. So she she also is an animator, I guess, and does like graphic novels, which is not usually an art form that I'm necessarily drawn to, but she created these like super elaborate panels. I think a lot of it was through animation or like um, cartoon drawing, kind of, I guess. And she basically was uh, showing her artistic interpretation of Russian history. So
Interesting.
she started out with um, Ivan the Terrible, very infamous czar from the
Right.
16th century, kind of uh, singing this song, which goes along to the tune of this song called Kalinka, which is a famous Russian song. I don't know the tune like off the top of my head, but basically, like
You're not gonna sing for us?
that would not be pleasurable for anyone. um, basically, like passing down his advice on how to be a successful ruler to a young Joseph Stalin, who is shown as a baby with a mustache.
Of
And then
course.
also like portrayed in different panels, like he's wearing a sheep suit in one of them, and then he has like the hands and feet of a wolf. So like, you know, a wolf wearing,
Right.
yeah,
Sheep's
that,
clothes.
yeah. But her work really struck me. It was
Yeah.
really fascinating. So I would encourage people to check it out. And the Museum of
Yeah.
Icons was a really cool place. And if you're in Boston, you know, it's probably like hour and a half outside.
Yeah, it's super close.
Yeah, you know, if
Yeah.
you're
If
looking to
I'm
get
in
out of the
Boston,
city.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, it's a really interesting place. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's pretty much been the artwork that I've been looking at. I also recently went to the Hyde Collection in Glens Falls, New York, which is
Mhm.
really close to where I'm currently living, where Vanessa and I grew up. And they have an exhibit up right now of lacquer paintings, Russian lacquer paintings that were primarily done in the late 80s and early 90s. So they're kind of like these small boxes, kind of like a jewelry box almost, and they have Russian fairy tales painted on them, and they're really, really beautiful. Also done in a style similar to iconography. I don't know if you've ever used like egg tempera as a type of paint. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all.
Not specifically.
Okay.
Um,
I have no idea, but I was noticing that a lot of the works at the Museum of Russian Icons were made with that. They actually had a display case like showing the different types of paint,
mhm.
which I thought was really cool, but I just don't really necessarily have the context to understand that.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a whole, you could go down the rabbit hole with different types of paint and pigments and how they're made and what they're derived from and how you get the color and what you mix it with to get the right consistencies and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
So,
yeah. So both the paintings at the Hyde Collection and at the Museum of Russian Icons, I saw a lot of egg tempera.
nice,
Yeah.
nice.
So we've talked a lot about my side project, but I am not the only member of Gallery Bear that is exceedingly busy. So,
Boy.
in addition to running the gallery, what other side projects do you have going on?
I always have a side project going on. I
You
always have
do.
multiple side projects
You
going
really
on.
do.
Just since I can remember, I've always been doing multiple things. So I guess let's see, the main things that I have that I'm kind of putting all my time into creatively, and this this is outside of a mostly full-time job, right? I do like
Mhm.
32 hours a week or so right now. Is the gallery, my own personal art making and art practice. And then I have another new kind of project that I've been working on for the last like year or so. And just now have started working with a couple different people of uh, kind of helping different creatives get their like online presence situated, like organized, um, as well as like just like kind of somebody to hold them accountable to like projects and timing things and in
Yeah.
the right time frames and that kind of thing. I always noticed a lot of people struggling with that kind of thing. I'm very lucky in that I have a lot of creativity, but I also have a really organized mind, so to speak, where I can kind of tackle all of those little organizational things that come with, um, sharing your creativity, especially in like the digital age. Um, so running the gallery, making my own work. I'm part of a art collective in Georgetown, where I work my full-time job. But so the collective there is just kind of getting off the ground. We've only been around for a little over a year now, like a year and a couple of months. And that's been really hard with the whole pandemic too, of not being able to be open and having like art walks and having people come through and stuff. We're just now starting to kind of invite like small numbers of people, completely masked up into the space, but just all around, I've now I'm losing my train of thought.
No worries.
But yeah, also with the collective, I help run their social media engagements. So a lot of online sort of things in the work, to balance the creativity stuff that I've been doing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, speaking of the gallery, I mean, like, what made you want to start Gallery Baird?
Yeah, I think, tying back into a little bit of what I had said earlier with my newest project, of which is Baird Creative at the moment. It might change, but going along with that, of like trying to help other people get a leg up, was on the creativity part, or on the organizational part of their creativity, is like trying to create community and just lift artists and artwork up. I really, the main reason is I wanted to play around with curation. I wanted to play with being a curator. I wanted to own a gallery one day, and instead of just wanting those things, I decided to let's just start it.
Yeah.
And specifically starting with emerging and mid-career artists, is that they're not always out in the world yet, but they still make really amazing things and put a lot of time and effort into it. And I wanted to show that work without putting a stress on the individual artist. A lot of times, from an artist standpoint, you are applying to shows. The entry fee costs money. Okay, now I'm in the show, shipping your work, or driving to drop it off at the correct time, that takes away time and energy. And then if your work sells, then the gallery gets a commission piece back. Mm-hmm. And while that all makes sense, from a gallery standpoint of we need to make money, it's really, it's a big barrier in a lot of ways for people who are just starting out and getting their footing and trying to learn how to do all of this, because it's not always all taught in art school. Some of it you got to just kind of stumble around in. Mm-hmm. So I really wanted to give an alternative space that didn't have that, gallery prestige feel of like, well, we won't accept this and we will accept this, and just show new good work that's interesting, and hopefully have a good conversation about it.
Yeah, totally.
So when I started the gallery, I started it in April of 2019. But you joined me like 2 months later, I want to say.
Yes. My first feature that I helped out was July 2019, when we featured Joe Gallagher.
Yeah. So, you know, obviously we were very good friends. But what
Maybe
made
that's
you
not
like,
obvious because we didn't actually like,
maybe that wasn't obvious? Oh
well,
boy.
I mean, I think to people who know us, it's obvious, but like
Fair.
people who don't know us, I don't know. I mean, okay, so the really short version is Vanessa and I have known each other since we were like 12. We grew up in the same town together, and we are still very good friends to this day. So
Okay, so backstory established. We
yeah,
are very good friends.
yeah,
And so like I knew she was doing museum studies, and you knew that I was working on this website for this gallery, and then I launched it, and um, you came at just the right point because I was starting to get overwhelmed. I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can keep up with all of this. Like it's a
yeah.
lot.
It's a lot.
And you jumped on right away. What was your main drive for jumping on, or what was your thought process?
So I actually remember our conversation where like we decided to work together pretty well.
Yeah.
Um, I had come to visit you in Seattle. We had kind of had like a friends reunion weekend in Seattle, and everyone. So it was like I don't know, I guess Sunday morning, and everyone was like getting ready to go back to our respective homes, and I was about to hop on a train to go to Portland, and I don't know, you and I just started having a conversation kind of about the art world and the museum world, kind of voicing our frustrations more or less. I don't know how that got started, but my inclination is that I was probably complaining about how hard it is to get an internship at a museum.
Yes.
Because in New York City, and I'm sure a lot of other cities, New York is just hyper competitive in my opinion, in an already competitive field. Like, people want you to have like a PhD to like to be a freaking intern, an unpaid intern.
Right. Unpaid intern is the key
Like,
there. It's
yeah.
so
And there is actually a movement within museum professionals to stop unpaid internships. Like, they're starting to be viewed as kind of unethical. And
right.
I hear that, like, that's kind of a whole other debate that we could go into, but
We don't need to go down that rabbit hole quite
yeah,
yet.
exactly. But, I think we were both feeling frustrations with the art world, and we're coming at it from two different perspectives. Like, you're an artist, and I'm not artistically gifted, but I want to be like in the art world. And so like getting into a gallery, getting into a museum, it's just like so difficult. And I think and then you were like, yeah, I hear that. That's kind of why I started Gallery Baird. And then like you and I have like different strengths, but they kind of complement each other
For sure.
well. So, you were kind of saying, yeah, like this gallery is a lot of work. And I don't know if people realize, I mean, how would they? Like how much work running this gallery is. Like, and we're not even doing everything we want to do. There are so
Oh yeah.
many ideas that we have where we're like, we can't do this right now because you work full time and I work full time and I'm in grad school and like you've got your other side projects. So it's like there's so much that we want to do, and there's like so many ways we want to make this gallery grow, and like just basically due to time constraints right now, like we just can't do it quite as fast as we maybe would like to. But
Right.
I was like at a point where I was like, you know what? Like, I'm so tired of trying to like get an internship somewhere, or, a really low paying job somewhere, and just facing this rejection like over and over again. And I was like, why couldn't I just start my own? Or like, I didn't start this, but like join in with you and, learn as we go. I think we've learned a lot
Wow.
doing this. And I don't need like some person to be like, yes, I deem you worthy to come work for free for me. And
Right.
you
For
know
free.
that for me was when I was like, yeah, I want to try this out. And it's been a really like fun journey that we've had running this gallery. Sometimes it's really stressful. It's hard to like manage all of it sometimes. But that's I loved your idea, and I loved that you were just so like, yeah, I'm just gonna start my own gallery, because I probably wouldn't have done that. But you kind of have this like entrepreneurial spirit where you're like, yeah, I'm gonna just start
Yeah.
this, do it on my own. And I was like, that's really cool. And our skill sets complement one another very well, and I think we work well together.
Yeah. No, I was so happy that you came on board. I was like, yes.